Welcome to Scary Story Podcast. In this episode, I share two stories. One of them being the experience of a young boy walking home, and the other about a true phenomenon that happens to hundreds of people around the world, losing sense of reality. My name is Edwin. Here is a scary story. Hey, come here. It was late in the evening and little George was waiting for his mom to get off work by the door of the bakery. He was asked by the manager not to stand too close to the door because customers had often asked who the little boy by the window was, and the manager felt uncomfortable saying that he was the son of one of his employees. George remembered this and moved back to wait by one of the steps off to the side. Why the manager simply didn't let George wait inside was beyond me. But George had gotten invited inside a couple of times, often to the awkward smile of the patrons feeling sorry for him as he stepped toward the warm ovens, and he avoided Mr. Smith's glare along with the fake smile he would display after being forced to let him inside the shop. The wind usually picked up around this time, around the time that his mom clocked out, so the little boy would break the customer's heart by simply standing there, by the door, peeking inside, and standing out in the wind. It was okay with George. Instead of watching for his mom to see if she picked up the basket by the cash register, he'd wait to be surprised. There was bread in there. And sometimes there were these croissants with the beef sausage inside. George figured that waiting for his mom to cross the door was just the same. He would look right at her and then down at her side. She usually had a bag, sometimes a small one, and other times it was a large paper bag stuffed to the top with bread. Still, he couldn't help but walk across the door a few times to see if his mom was near that basket on the counter. It seemed to be about an extra hour, though it could have been only a few minutes later. But George was greeted by surprise when his mom stepped out of the shop. "George, help me out with this, will you?" his mom said in her soft voice. His brown shoes crunched against that loose gravel on the sidewalk. He grabbed the bag. He could usually tell when Mom was in a good mood and when she was tired, which I guess some would call a bad mood, though comparing the two didn't seem to match for some reason. Today, he had no idea. She stepped in front of him, crossing those dark paved streets. Usually their voices were the only ones that could be heard at that hour, with the distant chatter of people coming from the windows with the flashing blue lights of the television, shining through the large windows of the living room. Once they got home, though, their windows would be lit with that warm orange light of the kitchen, but never the blue lights. Television at night gives you nightmares, Mom would say. And so George followed 4 or 5 steps behind his mother down the street before turning into the dark dirt road that would lead them straight home. The bread he hugged with his arms was getting heavier, so he decided to stop and adjust it, raising it higher toward his shoulders. 7 steps behind his mother now. He squished the bread with his left hand through the paper bag and put his right hand on the bottom of it, but it took some fiddling around. He was about 15 steps behind her now, his mom visible only because of her yellow and white uniform of Smith Bakery. He was trying to pick up the pace, but his mother didn't get any closer. He wanted to call out for her, but he remembered when he did that last time. "The neighbors were sleeping, don't make too much noise," she said. So he focused on the sounds of those crickets by the pond they were about to pass on their left. The orange light post up ahead was right where their house was, and he could see it now. And he was getting closer to his mother, too. That's when he heard it. "Hey, come here. Come here," he heard from behind him. He turned around, trying not to stop completely in fear of losing his mother in the darkness. He may have seen something hiding behind the oak tree in front of one of the neighbors' homes, but he wasn't too sure. He felt uneasy now. "Hey, come here." George thought about running to catch up to his mother. "Hey, come here. Come here," he heard once again, closer this time. George didn't turn around. Instead, he started running. Upon hearing his footsteps, George's mother turned around and let out a scream. Behind her son was a pudgy small man about the height of a large dog, a big hat on his head. George turned around to see the thing's huge nose on its wrinkled face about 2 steps away from him. It seemed just as scared and jumped toward the bushes on the side of the road. In the confusion, some of the bread had fallen off the bag, and George's mother was running toward her son. Little George remembered this scene for years, and the sight of the bread falling off the bag, the croissants spilling over to the side. He stayed close to the door of the bakery from that point forward. He walked next to his mother on the way home. But still, on some dark nights, you can still hear the little man's voice from the side of the road. "Hey, come here. Come here." Cult of Burials. It was 2015, and Diana had decided to take a trip down to South America and do something that she explained in many words. But to summarize it, it was basically a really long walk. People do this in the United States and all around the world. Long treks across states or countries, all seeking something different. Some type of eye-opening experience, and some look for closure from it, while others grieve while walking. She made it seem like it was a safe thing to do, but I'm sure she didn't watch the same videos that I did on the trail. The crime, the disappearances. I tend to get paranoid about this sort of thing, and even though I'm sure that those are exceptions and a very slim percentage of what actually happens, the horrific stories themselves are what make me think twice about ever doing a walk like that. Hands being severed and placed on the windshields of cars. People breaking into tents and stabbing sleepers for no reason. Yeah, no thanks. But Diana was my best friend, and I think aside from me imagining her horrible death, I was mainly worried about her finding her new favorite place and forgetting about me. Selfish, I know. But she did invite me, and I said no. And it was a type of guilt I felt in knowing that something could happen to her because she was traveling alone. She kept me updated throughout the whole trip whenever she found free Wi-Fi. I really didn't think I would lose her. At least not in the way that I did. It was gross, but she sent me a photo of her blistered feet at one point. And I remembered thinking about how strange it would be if that were to be the last photo she ever sent me, memorialized forever as a last message. Thankfully, she sent me other messages soon after that. She sounded like she was having fun, making friends, and enjoying herself. Exhausted, but day turned around after that cold apple juice from a lonely shop before entering one of the prettiest small towns with the views of the rolling hills. She sounded like a poet, and that she actually was. It was how we met, actually, and there was lots of things we talked about that she suddenly added color to, extra words, and sometimes, only sometimes, she would start crying at the sentences she formed. She would then take out that ugly brown notebook, shake her pen, and trap the sentence in the yellowed paper, next to the other paragraphs that she had come up with, sometimes with little sketches. But the messages eventually slowed down, and honestly, I was starting to grow envious of the amazing days she was having. The lack of text wasn't as concerning as I thought it would be. She was woken up by roosters and rays of sunshine, while I had my old trusty iPhone yelling at me every morning to hop in the shower. Otherwise, I'd miss the 6 a.m. train down to my cubicle. And it was there, on my cube, right under the office lights that weren't working, where my heart dropped to my stomach on a Thursday afternoon, at the latest message she had sent me just as I was about to leave for the day. Something happened, she said. I clicked through the screen to find the rest of the messages, where she explained that I thought she would think that she was crazy for what she was about to tell me, but that she was approached by two men while out on the trail. My finger was shaking in front of the blue text bubbles, so I moved it to the side as I gripped the phone with both hands. I could feel the phone slipping through the sweat between my palms and the see-through plastic case that Diana and I bought together. The one we said we would fill with stickers, but never did. She was at a hostel now, she said. She was going to do some readings and asked if she could call me once she was done. That it would be 9 p.m., my time. Of course that was okay, but I decided to call her anyway, only to get the message that the phone number could not be reached. She had gotten a new data plan and phone number while traveling, so that made sense. It seemed like forever, but 9 o'clock came and, as punctual as ever, the unfamiliar FaceTime audio ringtone came on. Hey, so the Wi-Fi slows down in about 10 minutes, but basically a couple of guys gave me a folded piece of paper. I know this sounds crazy, but there's an information seminar not too far from here that talks about just what I was looking for. It's about the truth, and I'll send you a picture of it. Wait, hold on. And with that, she hung up, sent a photo of a bright green flyer in English, and called back. Diana explained at 1,000 words per minute that this group knew about the existence of aliens and that they live among us. That there was a man who could answer all these questions and would serve as a bridge between the superior beings and the listeners. That she would have to be there to believe it. I laughed. I imagined a man with a tinfoil hat, ready to receive signals from outer space and communicate the messages, all for 3 easy payments of $1,000 each. Her tone changed immediately, first to anger and then to cries. All I could hear were sniffles and her distorted voice as she complained to me that nobody ever took her seriously, that she's no longer the same person that she used to be, that she wished for people to be able to see that. I had heard that speech before, and suddenly the worries that I had for her went away, and all I could think about was that she was always coming off as that entitled brat that made everything about her. The deposits her dad made to her account stopped her from ever holding on to a real job, with the exception of a food delivery gig she took up with a vegan shop from our town. It was part of their motto that deliveries were to be made on bicycle or on foot. And again, I laughed when she first told me about it. But I held back yelling at her and telling her exactly what I thought about her at that moment, just like I always did. I felt shocked. Then I let the logic come back to me as I thought of reasons why her actions didn't surprise me at all. And with that, she got lost. She stopped replying to my messages. First for a couple of months. But I would get phone calls from her parents every day, 2 to 3 times, asking if I had heard anything from her. And that turned into a couple of years. Apparently she had been sending her parents messages from anonymous numbers saying that she was alright, that there was nothing to worry about, and that she needed money. She wouldn't say where she was, but some savvy friends of hers were able to trace her down thanks to the internet connection she used. The area was a small town in the country of Chile. Then she moved up north to Peru, and later on ended up in Nicaragua. It is still tough for me to believe that in 2017 her photo showed up on an internet article. One of my friends had set up an image recognition bot to scan websites with conspiracies and for known cults that matched the name of the flyer that she sent me. Burials. Dismiss what you know. They are waiting for us, it read. She was sitting in a circle of people. Her blonde hair had grown significantly, and she wore clothes that looked like rags of the color that matched palm leaves. The group she belongs to believes in creating a separate society where everything is shared, where beings from other planets are able to cohabit with them, and that they will learn the powers of our ancestors, whatever those are. She sends messages every once in a while, but I rarely hear from her now. And though her parents and I know that she is alive, we still have to accept that the Diana we once knew was dead. Just like her story, there are thousands of them out there. People who get lost, fooled by others, and their own minds. Scary Story Podcast is produced by me, Edwin Covarrubias. To stay up to date with the podcast, you can sign up for notifications by heading over to scarystorypodcast.com. Or you can also click follow right now on your podcast player. Until next time, thank you very much for listening.